There was a family in southern Nigeria whose greatest dream rested on one child, one daughter. Her name was Annie. From the very day she was born, her father lifted her into the morning sunlight and declared before the elders, "My daughter will become the greatest doctor this family has ever produced." The women clapped. The men nodded. The elders smiled. You see, in many African homes, becoming a doctor was never just about choosing a career. It was honor. It was respect. It was a reward for years of sacrifice. And from that very day, before Annie could even speak, her future had already been chosen for her. But one thing I've learned in life is this: destiny has a language louder than promises. While other children played with dolls, little Annie collected empty buckets. She turned cooking pots upside down. She beat them gently like drums. She sang to the chickens. She sang while fetching water. She sang when sweeping the compound. Even the old mango tree beside their house seemed to dance whenever her tiny voice floated through the evening breeze. The neighbors would often stop walking, not because they were curious, but because something about that little girl's voice made tired people forget their worries. One elderly woman smiled one afternoon and quietly whispered, "This child carries music inside her bones." But Annie's parents only laughed. "Music cannot feed anybody," her father replied. "Doctors save lives. Singers entertain people." And from that day, every conversation inside the house carried only one message: read your biology, practice chemistry, medicine first, music later. Except later never came. As Annie grew older, her love for music only became stronger. She secretly listened to songs at night after everyone had gone to sleep. She memorized harmonies. She filled old notebooks with little song lyrics. Sometimes she stood before the mirror, holding a hairbrush like a microphone, imagining thousands of people cheering her name. But every single time her mother caught her singing, the radio disappeared. The notebooks vanished. The singing stopped. Doctors don't waste time singing, her mother would always say. Slowly, the house became quiet, not because Annie had stopped dreaming, but because she had learned that dreams could become punishments. Then secondary school arrived. Her parents proudly enrolled her in one of the best science schools they could afford. Physics, chemistry, biology, further mathematics. Subjects she stared at every night, until tears blurred the pages. She tried. Oh, she truly tried. She prayed before every examination. She attended extra lessons. She copied notes until her fingers hurt. She memorized diagrams she barely understood. But no matter how hard she pushed, her heart was somewhere else. Whenever she opened her chemistry textbook, melodies entered her mind. Whenever she studied human anatomy, song lyrics appeared between the lines. It was almost as if her soul kept reminding her, "You are reading another person's story." Then came WAEC, the examination every Nigerian student feared. The entire family gathered to pray. Her father even told relatives, "Our future doctor will make us proud." Then the results arrived. Failure. Silence filled the house. No one asked Annie how she felt. No one noticed the tears she cried alone that night. Instead, the shouting began. "Study harder. Other children can do it. You are simply not serious." She wrote WAC again. Another disappointment. The pressure doubled. Friends moved on with their lives. Some entered universities. Others learned businesses. But Annie remained trapped between expectation and disappointment. Every family gathering became painful. Relatives asked the same question: "Have you entered medical school yet?" She forced a smile, but inside, her confidence was slowly disappearing. The third attempt became her final chance. She studied day and night, not because she loved the subjects, but because she feared breaking her parents' hearts again. When the results finally came, she had passed all 9 subjects, but only with modest grades, mostly C4S. To Annie, it felt like climbing a mountain with bleeding feet. To her parents, it still was enough. "At least now," her father said, "you can finally become a doctor." They celebrated, but Annie didn't, because passing the examination had not changed one thing. She still wasn't living her own dream. Then came JAMB. Her parents expected excellence. Instead, her score became even worse. The house exploded with anger. Her father refused to speak to her for days. Her mother cried in disappointment. Yet neither of them asked the one question that could have changed everything. Annie, what do you truly want? And that's the sad reality in many homes. Sometimes, parents become so busy trying to build a future for their children that they forget to ask whether those children are actually happy living inside that future. Still, they refuse to give up. At just 19 years old, they enrolled Annie in a JUPEP program at the University of Benin, believing it would become the bridge to medical school. They hugged her goodbye with pride. When next we see you, her father said, you will be one step closer to becoming Dr. Annie. The bus pulled away. Her parents waved until they could no longer see her. They believed they had secured their daughter's future, but neither they nor Annie knew that destiny had quietly opened another door, far away from home. For the first time in her life, no one stood outside her bedroom, reminding her to study medicine. No one had the radio. No one took away her songs. And for the very first time, the little girl who had always sung to the mango tree took a deep breath, looked up at the sky, and quietly whispered to herself, perhaps this is the first day my own life truly begins. When Annie arrived at the University of Benin, everything felt different. For the first time in her life, there was no one standing over her shoulder, no one checking whether she had opened her biology textbook, no one reminding her that she was supposed to become a doctor. Her parents called almost every evening. How are your classes? Are you reading hard? Remember, your future depends on this. And Annie always gave the same answer. Yes, Dad. Yes, Mom. But every time she ended those calls, she walked toward a completely different future. Instead of spending all her free time reading science textbooks, she found herself standing outside music studios. She attended local auditions. She met young producers. She joined choirs. She learned vocal control. She spent hours watching professional singers perform, carefully studying every note, every breath, every movement on stage. For the first time, she wasn't studying because someone forced her to. She was learning because she loved it. And somehow, the girl who struggled to stay awake while reading chemistry could spend 12 hours practicing music without noticing the sun had gone down. That's the difference passion can make. When your heart is involved, hard work no longer feels like punishment. It becomes purpose. Months passed. Then 1 year. The JUPEP program came to an end. Her parents waited excitedly for the admission list into medicine. Relatives began calling. Congratulations in advance. Dr. Annie is almost here. Everyone was already celebrating, except Annie, because she had already made the biggest decision of her life. She wasn't going back. She wasn't going to study medicine. She wasn't going to continue living someone else's dream. So she did something that frightened her more than anything else. She lied. She told her parents there had been issues with the admission process. She said there were delays. She said another list would soon be released. They believed her. It was the first lie she had ever told them, not because she wanted to deceive them, but because she wasn't yet strong enough to tell them the truth. While everyone believed she was waiting for medical admission, Annie was building something they couldn't yet see. She recorded her first demo. It wasn't perfect. Many producers rejected her. Some said her voice was too soft. Others said nobody would listen to her kind of music. Several auditions ended before she even finished singing. There were days she cried herself to sleep, days she wondered if maybe her parents had been right all along. But every time she thought about giving up, she remembered the little girl who used to sing to the chickens. She remembered the old grandmother who once whispered, "This child carries music inside her bones." So she kept going. She practiced every single day. She improved her songwriting. She learned how to perform before small crowds. Little by little, people began to notice. One performance became 2. 2 became 10. 10 became hundreds. Then something happened that changed everything. A video of Annie singing at a small talent show found its way onto the internet. Nobody knew who she was. Nobody knew where she came from. People simply fell in love with the voice. Within days, the video spread across Nigeria. Within weeks, it reached other African countries. Soon, record labels began calling. Concert organizers started inviting her. Radio stations played her songs. Her first single became a hit. Then came another, and another. Before long, the same voice that people once called a distraction became the voice millions of people couldn't stop listening to. For years after leaving home, Annie had become one of the biggest music stars in the world. She performed before stadiums filled with thousands of people. Her songs crossed borders. Her albums topped international charts. Award after award found their way into her hands. Then one unforgettable evening, her parents sat quietly in their living room after dinner. The television was on. An international music award ceremony was being broadcast live. Suddenly, the presenter smiled and said, "And the award for Best Global Female Artist goes to..." A familiar face appeared on the screen. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Her father leaned closer. Her mother covered her mouth. It couldn't be, but it was. There, standing on one of the biggest stages in the world, was their daughter, Annie. The little girl they had wanted to become Dr. Annie was now being celebrated by millions because she had become exactly who God created her to be. As she walked toward the stage, the entire audience stood on their feet. The applause seemed endless. And in that very moment, her parents finally understood something they had never seen before. Not every child is born to wear a white doctor's coat. Some are born to wear a microphone. Some are born to teach. Some are born to invent. Some are born to build businesses. Some are born to paint. Some are born to lead nations. Success does not wear only one uniform. That night, her father's eyes filled with tears. Not because Annie had failed to become a doctor, but because he finally realized she had become something even greater. She had become herself. The story doesn't end with Annie becoming famous. It ends with a lesson every parent should remember. Education is powerful, but education is not the only road to success. A child forced into another person's dream may survive, but a child encouraged to discover their own purpose can truly change the world.